The kidnapping of 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling took place on a warm October night in 1989.
The case would draw national attention, affecting families and leading to new sex offender laws.
We're previewing In the Dark, Season 1 from The New Yorker.
That's on this episode of So Much Crime.
So Little Time.
Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff. And in this episode, we're going to introduce you to In the Dark, Season 1. This is the Jacob Wetterling story.
If you haven't listened to In the Dark, that's great. This is one of our preview episodes.
Here, we're just going to discuss episode 1 and introduce you to the series. There's going to be no spoilers for what's to come.
You can find a link to In the Dark in our show notes.
We're going to come back in our next episode and discuss the whole series. But right now, here, we just want to decide if this is a crime that's worth your time. Dee, before we get to this crime, this is a pretty serious, pretty heavy crime, but we like to do something a little lighter. Let's hop in the time machine. We're going to go back to October 22nd, 1989.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have two songs for you. I'm gonna
Amazing.
So the first song, so this is a song that was the second best-selling single of 1989, but it was the number one song in October. The number one song was by Phil Collins.
Okay.
Called Another Day in Paradise. Do you know Another Day in Paradise?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, real downer. I will say I had the cassette single of Another Day in Paradise. But anyway, this was the year, just to give you a context of where we are. So 1989, big songs of that year were Madonna, Like a Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals. Wild Thing by Tone Loc. Back to Life by Soul to Soul. And Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic. Do you know any of these songs? You know Like a Prayer.
Pump up the jam, pump it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I know all these songs.
Great. These are great. These are, I mean, amazing songs. Okay. But this song, the song we're talking about, that was number one. This is possibly this specific artist's all-time biggest Hot 100 hit. It was the second number one of this artist's career. Now, here's the downside. It only hit number 22 in Ireland. So, Irish have something against this person. This was the lead single off this person's fourth album. And I don't know if this is a great clue or a terrible clue, but this, I wanted to include because I thought you might get something from this. The, quote, chair routine from the music video for this song inspired Britney Spears, Usher, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and others.
Okay.
Then I've got the lyrics. Do you want the lyrics or do you think you know who it is?
Do the lyrics.
All right, we're going to start with the verse. Shot like an arrow going through my heart. That's the pain I feel whenever we're apart. Not to say that I'm in love with you, but who's to say that I'm not? I just know that it feels wrong when I'm away too long. Makes my body hot, so let me tell you, baby. Then we get to the chorus. I'll tell your mama. I'll tell your friends. I'll tell anyone whose heart can comprehend. Send it in a letter, baby. Tell you on the phone. I'm not the kind of girl who likes to be alone. Then we get to the title. Oh, I thought you'd get this.
It's the chair thing that's like sticking on my head. I'm like, what's the music video with the chair?
It's someone very influential who's a good dancer.
Spinning the chair and doing like a whole chair thing.
Britney Spears, Usher, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC.
Yeah.
Who might have been one of their big influences? It's not Phil Collins. Phil Collins didn't have a dance routine in a chair.
And it's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Madonna?
No, Like a Prayer was her big song this year.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you said that already.
It's actually a woman we talked about in a pretty recent time machine. But we talked about a later song of hers. So 1989, because this was one from the 90s. This was when she was a little less, what's the word? She was a little more PG in this era.
It's not Janet Jackson.
It is Janet Jackson.
Is
We're
it?
talking about Janet Jackson, yeah.
How interesting. I wouldn't know the song now.
This is from Rhythm Nation. That's the album. It's Miss You Much. It's a great song.
Interesting.
Great song. All right, I have one more song for you. I just want to do the lyrics to this because I thought they were funny.
Okay.
This was the number 7 song on the Billboard Hot 100, and it goes like this. This is the verse. I don't know if you're going to know this, but it'd be great if you do. This here's a jam for all the fellas trying to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down because you're overzealous. Play hard to get. Females get jealous. Okay, smarty. Go to a party. Girls are scantily clad and showing body. Chick walks by. You wish you could sex her, but you're standing on the wall like you was Poindexter. Next day's function, high-class luncheon. Food is served and you're stone-cold munching. Music comes on, people start to dance, but then you ate so much you nearly split your pants. A girl starts walking, guys start gawking, sits down next to you and starts talking. Says she wants to dance because she likes to groove. So come on, fatso, and just...
shake that thing?
Bust a
shake
move.
that thing.
It's bust a move.
Bust a move.
Yeah, Young MC.
Did we do the bust a move before?
We've talked about it before. I didn't do it as a quiz. All right. Anyway, that was the number 7 song on the charts. Okay.
Okay.
What you got?
Do you want to guess what the top movie was at the time of this crime?
I do actually, because 1989, I was a 10-year-old lad. And I was very much excited about movies. So I know that big movies in 1989 were... Actually, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like there was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was out that year. Batman was out that year. That's all I can remember.
Okay. It's neither of those. Like, not even in the same ballpark of genre. This movie seemed to be at the top for 5 weeks.
Is this a movie a 10-year-old would have been excited about?
I think so.
Is it animated?
No.
Then I have no answer for you.
Okay. The movie is Look Who's Talking. Oh no, really?
I'd never watched it all the way through.
Did you not?
No.
What was your problem?
I don't know. It just seemed... I don't know. This just did not appeal to me.
That's so interesting.
This is Ted Danson, Steve Guttenberg, somebody else, Tom Selleck.
Bruce Willis is in it. John Travolta. Are you thinking about Three Men and a Little Baby?
Yes, I am. You're right.
Oh my God.
This
You
is the
don't like
baby.
3 Men and a Little Baby?
Also never saw it.
Well, that's something is wrong with you. Kirstie Alley is in this. Olympia.
This is the baby
UK.
talking. The
Yeah.
babies talk like they're adults.
Yeah.
Never saw this movie.
Okay. I feel like you should. But
Is that gonna impede my ability to play this game?
I don't know. It seems like a you problem. All right. So a few things, a few bits of trivia. I get that. We'll go through real quick. Okay. According to Kirstie Alley, who played the lead opposite John Travolta.
Is it Christy or Kirsty?
Sorry, Kirsty. Thank you.
Kirsty.
According to Kirstie Alley, in her memoir, she said she fell in love with John Travolta when she was filming this. But she stayed faithful to her husband. Oh, that's very funny. Apparently foreign countries had their own celebrities voicing baby Mikey. And apparently it was John Travolta's idea. Which
It's a good
I think is
idea.
very funny. Yeah,
why not?
I'd love to. I should go and look and... Oh my God, that would have been so good. Fuck, that's what I should have done. I should have found out who was the voices for each of different countries. Shite bags, that's what I should have done.
I mean, I wouldn't have been able to guess that.
You would have.
No, why would I know that?
I don't know, but that would have been very funny. Okay, anyway, I have more.
Shite bags.
Is that okay?
That's pretty good.
I have some quotes that I was gonna see if you could fill in some blankety blanks on. So James and Molly are having a discussion. So James is John Travolta, and Molly is Kirstie Alley, and they're having a conversation, and this is it. James goes, "Wow, you really got your figure back, didn't you?" And Molly says, "This is not my figure." And he says, well then, you really got blank blank his figure back.
Wait, they're both babies?
No.
Or is one of them a human, like adult?
No, they're both grown-ups.
Wait, I thought John Travolta voiced one of the babies.
No, he's a babysitter. He's the babysitter. Okay. Bruce Willis is the voice of the baby.
But this is John Travolta and Kirstie Alley talking.
Yeah.
You really got
which famous country singer did he say, well, then you really got blank blank's figure back?
Dolly Parton.
Yes.
Is that right?
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. That is in one of the quotes from him.
When in doubt, guess Dolly Parton.
Indeed. Okay. And I was going to read a bad review because I was like, Jeff's not going to agree with this, but it turns out you will. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this.
I mean, I just didn't see it.
Okay. Well, look who's talking. Despite the impressive cast, both physically and on vocal duties, this comedy felt like a sitcom forced to be on the big screen. It didn't do a lot for me. And then someone else had a really long review with the title, Look Who Is Puking.
Wow.
Aaron, 1375. That's pretty harsh.
But let me ask you this. Okay, it's 1989. You could go see Batman with Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger. You could go see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You could go see Back to the Future 2, I think came out that year. And you're going to see this? I'd go see Batman again.
Why do you have to choose?
Look, I'm not usually going to argue against the comedy. I'm a big fan of comedies, and they don't make enough comedies nowadays, and I miss that. But
yeah, you should go and see more comedies. It would help.
Okay.
Lighten you up.
This one just seemed dumb when I was 10 years old. It wasn't Spaceballs. Spaceballs came out the year before, and I was all about that.
Well, I was 2 when this came out, so it was right up my alley.
Do we want to wrap up this time machine?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, that was our time machine from October 22nd, 1989. If you've been listening to this show, you've probably heard us talk about our Patreon, patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. Maybe you've gone and checked it out. If you have, I encourage you to go over and check it out again because some stuff has been changing over the last few weeks over on our Patreon.
Whoop!
There's a new feature where if you join us on Patreon, you get the chance to actually chat with us, hang out with us, ask us your questions, tell us your thoughts live and sort of in person like. There's still the bonus content, the outtakes, the extra time machine stuff, all of that stuff is there. We're also offering t-shirts now with So Much Crime, So Little Time on them. You know it's a great logo.
They're very cute.
Get it on a t-shirt.
It's a great logo.
And this was always true, but maybe never more true. That feeling of supporting a little show that you love and just want to help by giving us a little bit of money each month, that's available on Patreon. So patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the podcast In the Dark, specifically season 1, the Jacob Wetterling case. So this was released in 2016. The host is Madeleine Baran. There are 9 episodes, but there's also 2 bonus episodes. And they range in length from 30 to 45 minutes each. But what is the story all about? Jeff, can you give us a bit of a recap of, like, a synopsis of what we can expect in this podcast?
Yeah, so episode 1 is called The Crime, and it kind of is what it says it is. It's about the day in 1989 where Jacob Wetterling was abducted. So he's an 11-year-old boy, lived in this small town in Minnesota, and we heard, I think, most of the episode was about the actual abduction, the night of the abduction. So Jacob was at home with one of his brother and a friend, and they had gone to ride their bikes down to a local video store to rent a video. There's a bit about how they wanted to get Major League, but they couldn't get Major League because it was rated R, and so they ended up getting The Naked Gun, which I also thought was rated R, but maybe I don't remember correctly. Anyway, as they were riding their bikes back to their house, a man stepped out of a gravel driveway. He had a gun, and he stopped the three boys. He ended up sending one by one two of the boys off to run into the woods. Basically, told them to run. And Jacob was the last one left. When the boys looked back to see what was going on, the man and Jacob were gone. And then we hear about the initial phase of the investigation by the police. So the police actually seem to arrive super quickly and begin investigating and searching the woods around where Jacob went missing, but they didn't find him. So we hear a little bit more just about the sort of immediate aftermath, but really this episode is mostly focused on that one night and overnight. And we do hear at the beginning of the episode, there's an interesting thing that I wanted to mention too that is very quick, but in prepping for this episode, I noted, so a quirk about this podcast was they were about to release this back in 2016, and I think they had recorded most of it when the crime was actually
a week away from releasing it.
Yeah, and then the person confessed to the crime, and they went back and re-recorded the first two episodes to acknowledge kind of where the crime stood. So the timing of that is I'm really curious about. But so we know at the beginning that though this crime was unsolved for almost 30 years, I think 27 years, when this podcast came out, it had just sort of been solved, but it had been a cold case for almost 3 decades.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. That was one of the questions I kind of had for you in like how impactful we think that is going to be on the podcast, because not only does it have an impact on, you know, how they tell the story, and obviously they'll have more findings, and maybe that's the bonus episodes, I would imagine, what we're going to hear.
Yeah.
Between the confession maybe and also how they prosecute, but also we hear in episode 1 how when an active investigation is going on, the public don't see the details of the case.
Yeah.
But as soon as the case is closed, they will get eyes on it. So how does that impact it? So like at what point did the producers start to get eyes on the case files? And once they did, like how were they able to do anything about it? Or maybe that's a different story. Maybe they never did. Maybe the bonus episodes don't deal with that at all.
I mean, we'll find out. I think from what we know from this story, so that is very briefly mentioned at the beginning of this first episode. Listening to this, one of the things that hit me was, so Jacob was 11 years old in 1989. I was 10. And I lived one state over in Wisconsin. I didn't know about this story, at least not that I remember. But, you know, I was of a very similar age at a very similar time, and in a neighboring state. So like a lot of the elements of this story where they were kind of placing us in the time really hit home, just about the idea of kind of, you know, a couple of kids hanging out, having a sleepover, wanting to go ride down to the video store, rent a VHS. You know, I remember that era when it was like Major League and Naked Gun, and like those are the movies that were out, and that feeling of like your parents just, you know, this is before cell phones, right? Like you just would go out and your parents wouldn't know where you were, and you know, it was a big deal to go out after dark. Like there was that kind of that era of, you know, you come home when the street lights come on. And, you know, they called and got permission. Their parents were out, and their parents gave them this, like the first time they'd gone out at night like this. And so like that definitely was very present in my mind. But then the other thing was now, like as a parent, right? Like, and I'm not a parent in 1989. I'm a parent in 2025. But I don't know, when my kids were this age, which they're not anymore, they're older now, but when they were this age, we just didn't live in an era where you let your kids kind of go out unsupervised like this at night. That era is sort of gone mostly in where at least where we lived at the time. So I don't know, I had a lot of emotions, like a strong kind of emotional response to this in different ways, both being a kid at this time, being a parent now. This hit kind of really hard. But I'm curious, like, what was your sort of reaction to hearing this story?
Yeah, I mean, I think similar. I didn't have like a free going out after dark situation. I think I've spoken about it a little bit before. I don't know whether it was because I was a girl with 4 older brothers. I also think there was events that happened to one of my older brothers when he was very young, very close to my home, that made my parents maybe more on edge than other parents might have been. And so that probably impacted like how my parents felt, how comfortable they were with letting us go too far away from the house. So I didn't have that upbringing. But yeah, I definitely had an emotional response to even hearing the story. It felt like I could see this play out. But for me, maybe it felt like I could see it play out very clearly, nearly like a movie, because it all felt so like a movie to me, the way it was set out, even with the babysitter, the next door neighbor coming over, and then when they have to go back out and she's asked to stay in with the younger sister, but like in the corner because they're away from windows, and then someone's knocking and she's terrified. Like all of that, like it felt like I was watching a horror movie.
Yes.
And it felt like even with the nylons, they were saying the attacker like had nylons maybe over his face. It all just felt so like I had seen it before, but on the TV.
Yeah.
So for me, I had the reaction probably as a parent of kids who are not at an age yet that I would let them out on their own. But again, we're not at a stage where we're not in. It's just not how it's done now.
Right.
And as much as we might want to, it's just not. And I think that's what I kind of kept hearing in this podcast is like, this was so impactful. This was so impactful for so many reasons. And yeah, I'm really intrigued to hear the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, I agree. Can I tell you what's a super bizarre sort of aside, but sort of related? Literally last night, so before I'd listened to this, I was reading this book, which is Paul Scheer's autobiography called Joyful Recollections of Trauma. So Paul Scheer has been on The League. He does a bunch of podcasts, including How Did This Get Made? And I started reading his book. And so he's about the same age as Jacob. And there's 2 stories he tells back to back at the beginning of this book that I've actually heard him tell on podcasts before. And the first one is about him being a kid, and his parents divorced and his mom got remarried, and his mom remarried a guy who was abusive and terrible and just generally awful. And at one point he goes, he takes his bike and he goes down to the video store, to the fancy video store, to look at their selection. It's like his first time by himself going to the video store. But first he goes to, I think it's like a 7-Eleven. While he's in the 7-Eleven, this group of men outside kind of come around his bike and start harassing him as soon as he comes out, and throw a beer bottle at the wall behind him, and then start chasing him. And he goes and he runs and he hides in the video store, and he ends up running all the way back home. And it's a whole traumatic event for him by himself on his bike going to a video store. And then the next story he tells is about being left home alone. So his parents are gone. He's home alone. The doors are the front door is locked, and someone comes and starts banging on the door looking for his stepdad, and ends up actually physically breaking in. And this is, again, just like this traumatic experience for him. But this happened in like around the same time as this Jacob Wetterling story. And it just hit me as like, this is so bizarre. Like, this was a time where you would leave a small child home alone, or you'd let them ride their bike down to the video store to rent a video. And this kind of shit happens out in the world. Obviously, like, he didn't get murdered. Like, it worked out for him. But like, he's writing this book called Joyful Recollections of Trauma. I don't know. It was just bizarre timing of just like putting me back in that place of like 1989 and what the world was like and how different it was. Like, you wouldn't let your kids ride a bike in the dark to a store. Like, I can't imagine that.
No, it gives me all sorts of feelings. One thing I did with this podcast, kind of accidentally, that I haven't done before, was to look at the comments from just episode 1. And it was actually really interesting because there seemed to be like kind of a bit of a debate going on where there's a couple of people who are critical of the way the host deals with criticism of the police in episode 1. So I'll say a couple of people are saying basically, yikes, the hate towards the cops here is beyond insane. The pain you put the family through just to do a podcast on how horrible the cops did. That's one of the comments. And then someone else says, great episode, but hindsight is 2020 could use less criticism of cops and more focus on facts. So there's a couple of people seem to be like on the side of this is too critical of the cops. And then there's a couple of people saying, I strongly disagree. If public officials paid for with our tax dollars aren't excellent at their jobs, they deserve criticism. And then someone else says, I think it's refreshing to have a journalist asking the critical questions of law enforcement. Too often in these cases involving youth, people just want to move on and don't ask the hard questions or review the system. It's important to scrutinise law enforcement to avoid the same mistakes again, which I think is a valid point. I think some of these are maybe poorly worded comments, but I can kind of see both sides, and I was kind of wondering how you felt about just episode 1 and like how it dealt with the police in this case.
Do you know when those reviews were from? Or is that not there?
Yeah, like one is 5 months ago, one is 2 months ago, one is 7 months ago. Like they're all fairly recent.
I'm curious because this is an older podcast, right? This is from 2016. I feel like there was a period where sort of questioning the police, like it ebbs and flows, right? It did sort of stick out to me how sort of sharply critical this was and the sort of narration was of the police, but also, I don't know, from what we know in the first episode, and I'm sure we'll learn much more in the later episodes, but they did kind of mess up. Like they got there very fast. Very fast. I actually thought that was interesting to hear how like he got abducted at about 9:20 p.m. Like it's interesting how specific the times were. So 9:20 p.m. And we heard this metaphor of the circles, like the ever widening circles. And at 9:20 was a very narrow circle of how far they could have gone. 9:38, the deputy gets to the house. 9:38, like that's less than 20 minutes later. That seemed to me remarkably fast. And then it's 10:45 where they're searching in the woods with a helicopter and the people on the ground. And then 3 a.m. where they call off the search, waiting for daylight. I don't know that we know enough yet about what really happened. Where he really went.
Well, it feels like one of the big things that is said, and like the question marks or the things that is left maybe that's said without being said in this podcast, in this episode, is that they didn't search that property belonging to Dan.
Dan Rassier, yeah.
And he kind of says, I really wish they have searched it. And that seems to be like this big thing. And so, yeah, like, did they fuck up there? Yeah. But like, as you said, like we've seen way worse than this.
Sure.
And maybe the people commenting here know more about the case. Like, I don't know anything about this case. So I know what we heard in episode 1. But I will say that there is one comment from Felicia Lynette from 5 months ago being like, I'd be interested to hear what the people that posted here negatively would think after listening to the entire series. It's always good to hold opinions and sometimes comments until you plan to go back, unless you plan to go back, until you have a full story. It's a great podcast, but for those that thought she was critical, I hope you took the time to keep listening, as she was not harsh but open-minded to what may have led them away from the answers in front of them for 27 years. And so I feel like it feels a little bit like the comments here. It would be like if we did a preview episode on episode 1 of a series and then we never came back to the series at all. We were like, no, my decision is this is shite. I'm not listening to anymore.
We have yet to do that.
We never do that.
Yeah.
We never do that.
Yeah.
We always power through and listen. And oftentimes I have had strong feelings towards hosts or stories or like where something is going to go, or like even how someone is telling their story or how they're coming across, and we're wrong, like with their point of view and their perspective, like they, once they get a chance to show it and tell it, and maybe in the way like the podcast produces it and we see it come out, like our opinions change. And I think we need to allow that. We need to see the entire arc before we have that strong feeling. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how it does all play out, especially with this comment saying, you know, she is very open-minded. I wouldn't have thought, having listened to episode 1, that she wouldn't be open-minded, but I do have to say I did feel the critical component of the police throughout this, and I thought it was kind of a bit odd.
Well, what do we know? Like, we come into this knowing that they didn't solve this crime for 27 years. We know Jacob was murdered. We know the resolution of this case.
Yeah, and do you know what? Maybe it's just because my expectations are low, but we're in a seemingly very rural area where, like, at one point when the abduction was called in, the sheriff or whoever was called in was like, well, I assumed this was either someone like running away or messing, because like this doesn't happen around here. So it feels kind of similar to like West Cork, because it's police forces that don't deal with this all the time, but yet how they dealt with it, even though they never deal with this type of thing, was like poles apart in terms of like getting people on the ground, timelines. Did they do it perfectly? No. But like...
No, I think that's right. I was going to disagree with you, but I feel like you're actually making a lot of sense. Oh, man, that's annoying.
I know. It's very annoying when I'm right. Happens so often. You tell us, though, what you think. Listeners, leave a comment. Let us know, whose side are you on in this? How strongly do you feel, having listened to episode 1? Are you with us on this journey to listen to the rest of season 1 in the dark? And don't forget as well to rate us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and spread the word. Tell your family and friends. Join us as we listen to the rest of this season and come back for our discussion.
Next time, we are going to discuss the investigation into Jacob's disappearance.
What did the police do right and what did they do wrong? And how did this case stay unsolved for decades?
We'll be recapping all of In the Dark Season 1.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So Little Time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of MimeGov Media. The executive producer is Paxton Calariso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show in your podcast app. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.